Sugidama blog. Sugidama blog.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 36 of Sugidama Podcast, the podcast about Japanese sake, the drink which is just awesome. This is the last episode of season 3, and I'm going to talk about the IWC Sake competition this year, where I was one of the judges. But before we talk about it, let me tell you about our sponsor, London Sake, which has one of the widest selections of premium and craft sake available online today. You can choose from over 100 sake from 25 breweries, and they will deliver across the UK and many European markets. And if you don't know what sake to choose, you can use simple online tasting notes together with very sensible and affordable food pairings to help you decide. What's more, you can get a 10% discount by just using the code Sugidama, all caps, during checkout. London Sake, making sake simple. My name is Alex and I live in London. I am a certified sake specialist, sake judge, sake educator, sake blogger and podcaster. On my Sugidama blog, I write about all things sake and publish tasting notes, overviews and information about sake events happening in London. So, IWC stands for International Wine Challenge, a well-established wine competition, which also has a sake section. It's one of the key sake competitions outside Japan, and the awards are quite prestigious. You might have seen IWC badges on some of sake bottles in the shops. This year is my second time on the judging panel, and compared to the previous year, the experience was so much better. You might remember episode 18 when I was talking about how I became a sake judge in the first place and how the judging was done in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. I have to admit that it was the least popular episode among all 3 seasons, so probably this heads up will encourage those who haven't listened to it yet to go back and download the episode. Before I speak about this year judging, let me just refresh your memory on how the judging is done. So the breweries submit their sake for the competition. They were 1,732 this year. I think it's more than last year. So the sake is judged by sake judges, and the judges are picked up from different occupations or categories or professions. So there are breweries, they come either from Japan or from other countries. There are sake professionals like importers, sake educators, or sake promoters. And there are people like myself who are from media, who write about sake, talk about sake, also educate about sake. So this is the setup of the judges. There are several panels. There were 50 judges in 12 panels, and each panel had 4 judges. And the judging is done by flights. So you've got the flight of sake, like for example, it's Junmai Daiginjo, and you've got 5 or 6 or 4. Sometimes it's 1 sake in a flight. And you try it, you have to double speed. Because if you try to drink it, you will get drunk very quickly, probably by lunchtime on the first day. And the organizers will ask you to leave and will never ask you to come back. So it's very important. I think it's reinforced at morning induction for sake, especially for those who are new, that please speed, double speed. There are spitules or spitulers. I don't remember how it's called, but basically you shouldn't drink sake. You still got some alcohol coming into the system because you try around 200 sake in 3 days. So it's probably, on average, probably 60, 80 sake per day. And sometimes you have to try them several times. So you still got some alcohol coming into your system, but it's probably not much. I wouldn't drive a car after the day of judging, but it's not only because of the alcohol, but because you feel quite exhausted. Okay, so the flights, as I said, it's the same type of sake, usually ranged from drier to sweeter, because if you start with a sweeter sake, I think it confuses your senses. So it's much better to go from drier to sweeter. And the technical team, they did a very good job arranging sake very well, in a very good way. So we didn't have any problem with judging. So judging happens in 2 rounds. So the first round, you try sake very quickly and you decide either it's out, so it's not a good sake, or it's commended, so it's worth sort of special recognition, or it's worth a medal, without thinking what kind of medal. So the first round takes about a day and a half. So you start the first day and the whole day is the first round. And then the next day, you do the first round judging before lunch. The second round, it's you judge the sake which have been already judged before by other panels. In this round, usually it's only commended and medal sake, but the organizers of the competition, they sometimes slip some out sake, just to, as Chris Ashton put it, to keep us on our toes, just to make sure that we are not complacent. So during the second round, you decide if it's commended or if it's medal. And if it's medal, what kind of medal it is. Then, if it's medal, you have to write tasting notes. So it's shorter tasting notes for bronze, slightly longer for silver, and the longest tasting notes for gold. It's word limit, I don't remember which one, it's like a 10, 15, 20 words, I think. And you have to be within this limit. These tasting notes, if you go to IWC website and see the results, you will see that all medal sake got tasting notes. So these tasting notes were written during the second round. So judging happens at the end of April for 3 days, as I said. And the medals are announced in mid-May, I think. And the trophies sometime in June. And the champion sake and I think great value sake as well, they announce in July, just before the grand award sake tasting at the Japanese embassy. So this tasting is probably culmination of the whole competition, because there is a award ceremony, and I've never been to award ceremony, so I don't know how it's done, but I saw the pictures and saw some clips from there. So it's sort of like a gala sort of thing, and with a stage, and people are awarded and announced and things like that. Quite formal, and but apparently a lot of fun as well. And for this ceremony, I think it takes place before tasting at the Japanese embassy. So for this ceremony, the brewers come from Japan. They fly from Japan, especially for this event, and for next day for this award tasting event as well. So it's the competition in a nutshell. So it happens every year. It happened during the COVID as well, but obviously it was much limited. So let me tell you about the key differences between last year, which was unusual, and this year, which was more normal judging. So the big difference, the huge difference, for example, for me, was that last year, all judges were from the UK. So nobody could fly into UK because of the COVID restrictions. So that's why I became a judge, because there were not enough people to judge. This year, there were a lot of people from outside the UK. There were quite limited number of people from Japan, because Japan still got or had restrictions and quarantine and things like that when you're coming back, and a lot of people couldn't afford it. But there were people from Japan, but there were people from other countries, quite famous people, like I met John Gontner, the English-speaking authority in sake in the world, Michael Tremblay, whom I interviewed about his and Nancy Matsumoto book about sake, Japanese craft sake, Toshio Ueno, Bo Timken, Rebecca Wilson-Lai, Gauthier Roussier. If you are sort of aware of the sake world, you probably recognize the names, because Gauthier Roussier, he wrote a book about sake, very big and quite comprehensive. And Rebecca, she's one of the Sake on Air podcast hosts, so you probably heard her on that podcast. So it's quite cool feeling when you meet people whom you never met before, but heard about, read their books, listened to what they say, and probably interacted with them over Zoom, some other technology. So it was great. It was great. So another big difference, that judging happened in one big room in Kia Oval. Because last year, if you remember, I was talking about it, each panel had a room, and we couldn't interact with other judges, we couldn't leave the room, we couldn't speak with anyone else. So it was very, very strict. The only people who were allowed to come to our rooms, it was like technical staff who were changing flights of sake. So it was a bit lonely in a way, and very, very isolated. You felt quite isolated. This year, it's completely different story. All tables were set in a big room on the ground floor of Kia Oval. So you could interact with people, you could see people judging other panels. So it was much more fun. And we had, social events at the end of the day after judging, because there was a bar when you can have a beer and talk to people, met people you've never met before, and talk about them. There was official dinner. And also there was unofficial dinner that judges organized to get together and to drink different sake. Some of them were quite amazing. So it was very, very good and very, very interactive. And it increased your learning experience, because you see other people, how they do things, and you learn from them as well. Another thing is that this year you were on different panel every day. So you start on one panel. I started on Anthony Moss's panel, and there were 4 judges on the panel this year. Last year there were 3 judges, and then you moved to another panel. Another panel was Michael Tremblay and Rebecca Wilson-Lai. And the third day, it was again different panel. I was with Oliver from Tango Sake, and with Gauthier Roussier from France, who is amazing in putting tasting notes. He's really great in doing that. So it was a very good experience, because first you meet much more people during judging, and it's different people with different backgrounds, and you learn quite a lot from them. And also, it's much more interesting because you see, new faces every day. So it was cool. It was much more interesting event, much more rewarding in terms of interaction, talking to people, and meeting new people. Yeah, so it was very cool. Okay. Before we talk about the sake tasting event at the Embassy of Japan and listen to a few sound bites from there, let me remind you about London Sake, our sponsor, and their huge selection of curated sake sets, which provide a great opportunity to explore various styles of and types of sake. Have a look, but don't forget about the magic word Sugidama, all caps, to get your 10% discount. So, what is the award-winning sake tasting? It's an event which organized by the Embassy of Japan, IWC, and Sake Samurai. It happens every year, but it didn't happen in 2020 and 2021 because of COVID. And I missed one in 2019 as well. For me, it's a very important event because it was my fateful encounter with sake in 2017 at this event. A friend of mine, I probably mentioned him several times, he invited me to this event. I got very, very vague understanding of sake impression. I tried it probably 2-3 times by that time. One time in Japan and probably a couple of times in London. So he sent me an invite, I came, and I was blown away. I was blown away by the quality of sake, by variety, by everything. And after that, I decided to start writing a blog. I did the sake course, Kikisakushi, with Oliver and Satomi. So it was very sort of turning point for me in terms of sake. And since then, I love this drink, and I write about it, I talk about it, I'm trying to encourage other people to try it and to drink it. So yeah, it's very important, very emotionally important event for me. So this time there were 12 breweries, fewer than usual, but still was very exciting. I think some breweries couldn't send anyone because there were sake judges like Oliver, Marie, and some other people who were pouring sake for the guests. So I guess it's still quite difficult for people to come from Japan. Probably some other constraints, I don't know. And there were fewer people attending. It was still quite a lot of people, but I think last time I went there in 2018, there were much more guests, and there were 2 rooms. This time there was only 1 room. So yeah, it's slightly downsized event this year. I hope that next year it's going to be different. So there were quite a lot of 12 breweries, and some of them quite well known, like Dewa Sakura, Yonetsuru, Keigetsu, Kamoizumi, and others. There was a Sawahime brewery which won the champion sake, Sawahime Ginjo, which was amazing sake. I can tell you, it's great. Another brewery was Atago no Matsu, and they've got Atago no Matsu Betsu Shikomi Honjosa, which was great value sake, one of the 3 great value sake. And I actually judged this sake. I looked up, because probably I didn't mention it, but you keep notes. So you judge sake, there is a special sheet where you put your comments and your ranking. And it's got like a carbon copy. So you keep this second copy for yourself. So you can go back, which I did, and check what kind of sake you judged and what they've got compared what you awarded to them. So it was quite interesting. And with Ataganomatsu Betsu Shikomi Honjozo, I could compare my tasting notes with final tasting notes, which was written by our panel. My tasting notes said, elegant, white pepper, peach, melon, well-balanced, nice acidity. So you have to be quite brief in your tasting notes because you just have to pick up some points and then contribute to the general tasting notes. And the final tasting notes were charming aromas of apricots and plums, kumquats and hint of spice. A palette of luscious fruit developing into pleasing savoriness in the mid-palate with a refreshing finish. So from my tasting notes, you can only see a hint of spice, which is, I put like white pepper, but it's quite interesting to compare them. So how it happens, there is an official part where you've got address from IWC, from Sake Samurai, from the Embassy of Japan by the ambassador. And after that, there is introductions of each brewery presented and then announcement of the champion sake. So after that, chairs are cleared and you've got probably 1 hour and a half to taste different sake. So there were 12 breweries at, I think, 11 tables, because one table had 2 breweries. And you go around with a glass, talk to people, taste sake, take notes, and enjoy the evening. There are some food brought in by the embassy or by catering, I don't know. So it's quite interesting event because there are quite a lot of people I know from the industry because I've been doing this blog, podcast, and other sake related stuff for already 5 years. So obviously you acquire quite a lot of friends and people you know, and you talk to them. And in my case, I wanted to record some comments from people I know about the competition, about tasting. So I talked to my fellow judges, sake makers and merchants, and even I got a comment from the ambassador of Japan to the United Kingdom, Hayashi Hajime. So you will hear all these comments.
Please welcome our guest.
So the first comment is from Oliver, the owner of Tengo Sake, one of the major importers of sake in the UK. I know Oliver very well. He was my mentor at the Kikisaki course a few years back, as I already mentioned, and a fellow judge at IWC. He was a panel chair this year, and I was on his panel on the final day of judging. And of course, he's been on Sugidama Podcast before, and I'm sure you will appear again. It's always fun to talk to him. He's a great presenter. He's a very good person to talk to. So I asked Oliver about his observations of the IWC Sake competition this year. It's a very short comment, as Oliver was pouring Horai Komachi Sakura, another great value trophy sake, and Masuyuzumi barrel aging Kijoshu, a Koshu aged sake trophy. He talked about a bit in his comment, but his observations are very interesting. Let's have a listen.
So showing the Futsu trophy and the Koshu trophy. The Koshu is actually a Kijoshu, and those two categories are always really, really strong at IWC. Futsu is getting better and better and better. The submissions are, and the one we've got here from Watanabe Shuzo, Horai, is a really great example. And then the barrel-aged Kijoshu we have from Masuyuzumi in Toyama Prefecture. Absolutely fantastic. The other observation I would say is trying like a lot of the Junmai Daiginjos, Ginjos, a lot of them are actually using kind of prefectural yeasts as opposed to the very popular like super aromatic Kyokai yeasts. So I think that's quite interesting. Much more kind of floral aromas are getting more than like bright pineapple and so on. So that was an observation that I noted both when we were judging and also the ones that have been chosen as the final trophies. Yeah, I mean, as you know, the judging is long and involved, and it's always difficult to know because you're one of 10, 15, however many tables there are. So it's difficult to know whether your table is representative of the entire group and what you're voting forwards is representative. But I think, you know, obviously the quality is fantastic. That's the first thing to say. And as I was just saying, I think there is, from my observation, a movement away from really bright tropical fruits to slightly more measured and kind of broader, more floral styles, which I think we observed when we were judging.
Yeah, we did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is that cool?
Yeah, it's great.
Nice one.
The trend of moving from the so-called fruit bomb sake, the sake with a very fruity expression, to more subdued aromas that Oliver talked about, is definitely getting more visible. In my previous episode, Andy Russell was talking about something similar. So the next comment is from Marie Cheng Tong, the chairman of the British Sake Association, a sake educator and freelance writer, with whom we discussed sake education in episode 32. You will hear that we had a lot of fun there.
Hi there, it's me again, wearing my IWC from 10.
Not the blue dress.
Not my blue dress. You really want to see my blue dress. One day, Alex, you might just get it. Anyway, here I'm in my capacity of being a judge. I did judge in this IWC 2022 in London. And it's amazing seeing the amount of people here tasting all the sakes. Fantastic sakes, all different categories. Which one's the best? As Alex will always ask me, the answer is not telling you because they're all the best.
So what do you think about the result?
Oh, the results. Of course they're great. All right, very, very difficult to come. I think it was very, very difficult for them to come to their final results because everything was really good. Interesting sakes, and well, I hope it continues being like this for another year and years to come.
Great, thanks a lot.
Yes, it was a fantastic evening with so many people tasting sake, talking to the brewers who especially came from Japan to participate in this event. So it's really great event. I also have two comments from sake breweries. The first one is from Muneki Matsumoto, president and CEO of the Tosa Brewing Company, a maker of the famous Keigetsu sake brand. If you remember, Keigetsu Junmai Daiginjo Nigori 50 was the sake I featured in the very first episode of Sugidama Podcast. I quite liked what Matsumoto-san said.
So I'm Muneki Matsumoto from Tosa Brewing Company. They're located in the Shikoku south part of Japan. This time I'm so happy to have a chance to attend this event as Embassy of Japan in London. This time we got the Junmai Daiginjo Coach Trophy for our sake nacho, and also actually we got 3 gold medals. Today we introduced 2. Another one is Keigetsu Nigori Junmai Daiginjo 50. That's a gold medal, and I'm so happy to have a chance to come here because we couldn't visit London past 2.5 years. I'm so exciting to have a chance to see my friend and the future friend. Yeah. So that I think the person who become happy with drinking our sake as our friend. So today, I believe I can make a new friends That's so happy. So see you soon in the UK or Japan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I think the idea that people who enjoy something you make become your friends is very amazing. I never thought about it this way, so I absolutely agree with Matsumoto-san. The second brewery comment is from Tracy Delaney from the Sparkling Sake Brewery, based here in the UK. I had an episode with Naoki and Tracy back in April, episode 28. They only opened for business last summer, and their sake got a commended award at the IWC, which is so cool.
We're so happy to have won a distinction at IWC. I think we could only continue to get better and aim for gold.
Yeah.
We've been working on our bubbles and some more on our flavor profile, so we're really excited about what the next brewing season holds and what the next IWC championship will hold for us as we enter in 2023.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm sure that the Sparkling Sake Brewery will get a medal next time. I followed Tracy's comment with a short remark from Robin Sola, the owner of Sorakami online sake shop, who became the first online distributor of it's the name of the brand of the Sparkling Sake Brewery. Here you are.
The only thing I have to say about Awa is that I've only had lovely feedbacks from customers who bought the sake as a present for their loved ones, and it's probably the only product that actually had customers emailing back to us saying, "Oh, it was so lovely to try this," and to actually have a customer, email you back about what they did, about their purchase and how they enjoyed it. It's quite surprising.
That's what we want to do, is bring happiness to people's faces. So if we bring happiness to faces and email boxes, all the better.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
What can I say? It's so cool to get feedback from your customers. Follow their example and leave some feedback for Sugidama Podcast. And the last comment is from the Ambassador of Japan to the UK, His Excellency Hayashi Hajime. I asked him what he thinks about the prospects of Japanese sake in the UK.
Yeah, in my short remarks, that the sake and Japanese cuisine are perfect in harmony with each other. So sake together with Japanese cuisine, this is the best way to enjoy eating and drinking for many British people. And because of that, I very much hope that the demand and preference of sake will be enhanced here in this country. And of course, that is good for business, but not only business purposes. That's a sort of cultural bond or mutual understanding of different cultures between the two people here and Japan.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think he's absolutely right. I think the sake is not just a drink. It becomes a cultural bridge between Japan and other nations, because you enjoy sake, you enjoy Japanese food, you enjoy them together or you enjoy them separately. But it's one of the things that make people closer to each other, because you have a drink, when you share a drink or meal with somebody, it's some kind of, some kind of mystical connection is established, and you start thinking about these people as your friends, your not just acquaintances. It's very similar to what Matsumoto-san from Keigetsu said, that people who enjoyed the sake his brewery is making become his friends. So it's if you share sake with somebody, you form a bond. And it's very important to understand other cultures through drink from their food, from their culture, and it's all intertwined. It's not separate, and it's amazing thing that make us to understand better other people from different countries. It's the last episode of season 3. And also, it's been 2 years since I started Sugidama Podcast. Hey! So I wanted to feature a sake with some personal connection, some emotional background. And the sake which came to my mind is Kamoizumi Junmai Daiginjo. I have already mentioned in some of the previous episode and in this episode, at the beginning of this episode, that I have a friend who actually introduced me to sake. We also share a general interest in Japan and Japanese culture. Probably it's in slightly different angles, but it makes more interesting to discuss things that way. So we have established a tradition to meet up and drink sake together. One of us buys sake and arranges food, and the other buys cakes at the local Japanese patisserie for tea after the meal. So we drink sake with some nice food, discuss it, and talk about Japan and life in general, about politics, about culture, about, personal stuff. And I enjoy doing it, and always look forward to our next nomikai, which is drinking party in Japanese. So it's pretty cool. Even during the lockdown, we did it over Zoom because we, couldn't miss it. So, and one of the first sake we drank together was Kamoizumi Junmai Daiginjo. And Kamoizumi Brewery is relatively young, founded only 110 years ago in 1912 in Hiroshima Prefecture by Junichi Maegaki, a son of a grain merchant. And Junichi was only 23 at that time. And the name of the brewery comes from the name of the spring, Kamo, from which the brewery takes its water for sake making. So Kamoizumi was one of the pioneering breweries which started revival of Junmai in 1965. And Junmai is the sake made from only 4 key ingredients: rice, water, koji, and yeast. Someone referred to them in conversation with me as being a bit eccentric. And I think what they meant was that the brewery is very innovative and inventive. They are one of the few breweries which make ginjo sake to drink warm, which is not your normal way of drinking ginjo. And the current president of the brewery, Kazuhiro Maegaki, is a chairman of the Sake Samurai Association, the organization that promotes sake internationally and one of the organizers of the sake tasting event at the Embassy of Japan. I mentioned them before. So Kamoizumi Junmai Daiginjo is quite mellow sake. It's relatively sweet, but not too much, and has fruity notes in the taste, but also some earthiness, some mushroomy overtones, if you like. It's very easy to drink, and it could be paired with a lot of different foods due to its balanced taste and gentle flavor. For the record, my friend, when we were drinking Kamoizumi Junmai Daiginjo, prepared a selection of cold starters and a miso-baked salmon as a main dish, which went nicely with the Kamoizumi sake. It was the beginning of February, so we also celebrated the Chinese New Year, which was the year of the Earth Dog, making the slightly earthy sake perfect to start the year with. That's it for today. As I said, I've concluded season 3 of Sugidama Podcast, and we'll be back after some break. I haven't yet decided when, but the idea is to start recording episodes for season 4 in September in order to begin the season later this year. I've got a lot of interesting ideas about what I want to do in the next season, but if you have any suggestions, don't be shy and let me know. I'm always thrilled to hear from my listeners. In the meantime, enjoy sake. Kamoizumi Junmai Daiginjo is available from the London Sake website, where you can get a 10% discount by entering Sugidama, all in caps, at the checkout. I'm sure there are more sake events coming up this summer and early autumn. Don't forget about World Sake Day on October the 1st. Also, the British Sake Association is holding a big tasting event on October the 7th. I will put up the details of my website when they are available. Oh, by the way, there is a new sake shops being opened, I think next week, on Commercial Street. It's called Sake Collective. Their online shop is already operational, but they plan to open the shop and add a bar probably a few weeks later. But yeah, it's very exciting to have another sake shop and like another physical sake shop in London. So I will definitely talk to them at some of the episodes of the next season or season after the next. I don't know, but definitely you will hear from them on this podcast. Talking about my website, which is sugidama.co.uk, I have started adding more tasting notes in the section. So take a look when you are thinking about buying sake to see some recommendations. If you have any sake questions or suggestions, especially for season 4, just drop me a line. My email address is alex@sugidama.co.uk, or you can tag me on Instagram or Twitter at sugidamablog in one word. Again, if you like the episode and want more, hit the subscribe button and you will won't miss the start of season 4. If you would like to give me a bit of support, there are a few things you can do. First, you can share the podcast or any particular episode on your social media to let your friends know about a super interesting podcast about sake. Or you can suggest it to anyone who is interested in sake, or mention Sugidama Podcast when you talk about sake to anyone. Secondly, you can leave a review or rate Sugidama Podcast. There are 2 places you can easily leave a review: on Apple Podcasts. If you use iPhone, iPad or Mac, go to the Sugidama Podcast page there and scroll down to the bottom where you can see reviews. There will be a link to add your own review. Another option is the Podchaser website, where you can leave a review of any podcast regardless of what platform you use to listen to it. I've got a link to my page there in the show notes. You need to register at Podchaser, but it's easy because you can use your Twitter or Facebook credentials and then leave a review. Spotify now allows you to rate podcasts you listen to. So if you use that platform, rate Sugidama Podcast there. If you see me at any sake event, say hi. I'm always happy to meet fellow sake lovers. Thanks a lot for listening. Stay calm, drink sake, and Kampai!
Suge, 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 Sugidama blog. Suge, 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 Sugidama blog.